Man, if you would have told me a couple of months back that we'd be doing a part 25 of the investigation of Prester John, there's no way. No way. But as you can see, what I'm saying, we took a few weeks back, man, just to take a step back. But really, take some leaps forward at the same time. And here we are, man, part 25. Love to you, Drop Nation. 5 o'clock in the morning, man. I'm just trying to do this, man, because I know my baby's going to wake up and be like, Daddy, I want some pancakes, man. So I'm trying to get this done. But yo, man, this is part 25, the investigation of El Prester John. Did a black man discover the fountain of youth? I mean, we got some of this before, just digging on this negoosh. Amazing fact about the Negro, number 61. What myth of the eternal youth in Africa inspired Europeans for centuries? I mean, why did they start looking for this black king? Whenever he encountered a counterintuitive fact, my mother's brother, my Uncle Ed, was fond of saying, that's another one of these things they just don't tell us, as if key bits of information about the order of things were systematically being withheld from black people. At the top of my own list of things we weren't told in school is the fact of the legendary fountain of youth was not only thought for centuries to be located in Ethiopia, which one, but that the man who discovered it and ruled it was a black man. So everybody knew this, so-called black, this copper-colored man had the drop on the fountain of youth. I mean, that's why they were looking for him. I mean, why do you think they were looking for him? Why do you think they needed an alliance with this kinship, this rulership, this priesthood, this priest king? European artists even painted portraits of him and sometimes decorated their maps of Africa with his image. European kings, popes, and explorers from Marco Polo to Ponce de Leon knew of him and his magical rim. That's right. When de Leon and his Spanish compatriots were wandering around the swamps of Florida trying not to be eaten by alligators, it was a black man and his mythical fountain for which they were likely searching. In fact, one way to think of the conquest of the oceans and the eventual navigation around the Cape of Good Hope in the late 15th century was that it was motivated, among other things, by the desperate search to find the black patriarch, Prester, priest, and tap into his wealth and military might. So they needed this priest king's military might to fight against Islam. This Christian pope needed to recruit the power that they've heard have been mowing down Islam already. This King David here, this Prester John here. So the goal was not only to liberate the Holy Land, they say, but also to experience this king's secrets of immortality. So in their minds, they're liberating the Holy Land, but they're looking for the black priest king to help them liberate it. And they want to get his secrets to immortality while they do it. While searching for this mythical fountain, this fountain of youth. Now, I mean, we're just talking about the man's wealth, this black patriarch. Tap into his wealth. We got to really decide what version of his story we are going to put into our minds. Are we going to do the same old Tonto Indian, coming down here, Indian shit? Or do you really see how this stuff really went down when you get into these Knights Templars? This was high technology, high society. I mean, even the Moors in Morocco breaking down that this was already Morocco. And if this was already the Moroccan Empire, if this was already going down here, then whatever confederacy and whatever treaties were made against the other people that were here, that had the land that they wanted, whatever help they needed to conquer their seed, their Shemite brothers of Shem, of Abraham, it wasn't the same Indian story we've been told in textbooks. I mean, when you understand, when you comprehend the images, man. I mean, you just put in Negro Prester John, you know, you get Negro Prester John. You see the Templar cross in the back, the Templar cross. There's more to it when you dig on this cardinal north, south, and east and west. This cross has always been representing north, south, and east and west. What energy, what dimension, what are we talking about? What's the indigenous drop of this symbol before the Christian hijack? And what's going on with the priest king? Look at the crown, the priest king. El Pritiani, read red. Ethiopia, which one? When I say which one, I'm not just saying that to say which one. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying which one. I mean, we get right here in this drop, this book called The Way, the prophetic messianic voice to the path of the Edenic kingdom, Eden kingdom. All right, the Yadas. Now this goes into Krishna. And we need to get back because we are digging on the three Indias. And what, how and what is where. And of course you got the Hindus, you know, planting all that here. And this being India here and that being India there. I mean, we just talking India. We need to get our perspective game together. We need to get our as a muzzle equidistant AE projection. This is not a globe, people. This is as if you were a bird looking down on the earth from the vault of the sky, the vault of heaven, looking down, as this is what's considered to be what, the North Pole. But then we can flip it. Remember, you've been flipped. But if we're just talking about that, North America, South America, or as the, you know, Moabites like to call all of this Africa, 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 Africa. But we're just talking about indigenous people before the hijack. North, South America. You have your so-called Africa here and your Asia, Europe situation. And all you have is India, India, and India. All of this is India. If you want to call it, you know, I mean, all these are generic terms. Dark regions, dark people. We'll get it, man. We're going to go quickly. This is part 25. I'm going to do a compilation, man, of just some of the stuff we went over with a little bit of the new. Let's see where we're at, man. And this is a series that we're going to keep going. So it ain't no rush to get from here to there. You know, this is an investigation that's going to be ongoing. The one series I can tell you that as long as, you know what I'm saying, we're here, you know, dropping anything over here, you know, or on our site, we will be, you know, still investigating Prester John, because it's always going to be something that I enjoy doing. And it's such a, I mean, so many people in so many walks of life have looked into this, and we've just now caught up with it. But now we got a foundation that they never had. We have a fresh breath, you know what I'm saying? We got that pure water that they've never added to the solution, so we can get a different result. We can have a different consciousness about this. So when you're talking Prester John, you're talking Columbus coming here to, you know, meet with the great Khan and all that kind of stuff, cross the river from Prester John, Israelite king, all the stuff that he's saying, everything that's coming down here. I'm coming to America to conquer the holy city, the promised land here. And word to my brother Irvin Reed for pointing this out, man. I mean, look at the perspective we're talking. So you see America here, you see Asia here. Look how close it is. Look how close it is. Look how close it is. So it's nothing for you to have dominion and roll up in here at any moment in Asia. Asia and America is very close. I mean, clearly it was connected. Clearly there must have been, even a little island, ways you can island hop like the brothers, you know what I'm saying? You break it down, you can island hop. Alright? So you got your island hop game going on. Everything's going on. Everything. But you see the connection. It ain't about going to Europe by the traditional route that you've been taught. It's about connecting right here when you have perspective. So, again, we just mentioned this Ethiopia drop. And we'll get back into this Krishna. Now it's saying the Yadas and his tribe. Yadas, his own tribe and nation. This was this tribe of Krishna, they're saying. Alright, so we're going to get into it. Well, let's just rock. Dodge the hijack. Stay focused. So we got the 3 Indias. Were doomed to destruction for their sins, they say. Alright, so these descendants of Yahuda or Yuda, which is the true pronouncing of Judah, Mr. Marie says the Yadavas were the most venerable immigrants from India. They were the blameless and pious Ethiopians. If you go to the site right now, man, love to the fam, Drop Nation, man, you know what I'm saying, y'all, kings and queens to all y'all, man, just for all the reading and the research that you've been doing over these months that we've been surfing this wave. It's been tremendous, you know what I'm saying. Someone just dropped some great drop about the untouchables of India. So that's right there on the site. Check it out right now, 42 to drop. You already know. And we'll get into that. So, you know what I'm saying, you can kind of get a head start. So, we got these Ethiopians. Now, the cat over there that's, you know what I'm saying, don't got his name off the top of my head. But that's dropping on this mentions how Ethiopia and India are synonymous. And that India was once called Ethiopia. And now when we think Ethiopia today, we've been given a specific region. But in perspective, Ethiopia was the dark-skinned regions, which is the whole earth. All the whole earth is Ethiopia or India, depending on how you breaking it down or what perspective you're having. Or it could be Morocco if you have that perspective. Or it could be Earth if you have that perspective. Right? But it says Yadavas were the most venerable immigrants from India. They were the blameless and pious Ethiopians who Homer mentions and calls the remotest of mankind. The remotest of mankind. In the most remote region of mankind. We already talked about the 3 Indias, the 1, 2, 3. Prester John of the 3 Indias. Which one is more remote to them? Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. So you have a lot coming right back here to the South America when we're talking about the most remotest, calls the most remotest of mankind. Part of them, says the old Hindu writers, remained in this country, and hence we read of 2 Ethiopian nations. The Western and the Oriental. East and the West. East and the West. But we got 3 Indias. Right? Some of them live far to the east, and they are the Yadavas who stayed in India, while others resided far to the west. Far to the west. So, different, perspectives, you know what I'm saying, trace, they try to say, okay, well, these Israelites are coming out of, in that India there, over to this India here, way back when, all this connection like that. Others say it started here, and this, that. Then when you get into the whole Buddha and the Brahma and all that kind of stuff, you got the Atlantean residue, or the Atlantean hijack, which again goes right back into North America. right back into Egypt and North America. And that's the perspective when you see the hijack in India now. All of that was coming out of Atlantis. Warring, all these little wars between these fallen gods and these, situations here. So let's get back to this, man. So we have this Prester John, this black patriarch. All right, I'm just getting some, because, we always get this, but I just want to get this. I just want to get it. So we have this black patriarch. You're tapping into his wealth and military might. Whatever his true name might have been, he was known throughout Europe as Prester John, the formidable priest king of ancient Ethiopia. Where's my Negro? I got so many tabs. All right, here we go. All right, so we got this joint. We got this joint before. We're just talking about the last noble image of the Negro, they say, according to Ronald Sanders. La Gran Negus, King, Prester, Yan. Priest John. Lemna Dangle DeWeet, Raja Hiraja Chola, David Slauson, Exilarch David Slauson. Of course, they don't have no image up. So I must provide you an image. They don't have no image up, so we must provide our own image. All right. All right. Where we at? All right, so Prester John, the formidable priest king that's in Ethiopia. Now, while the most of us associate the fountain of perpetual youth with the New World, especially Florida. Did you know that? Most people associate the fountain of youth with the New World, especially Florida. Did you know that? Most people do. All right, so most people do believe the fountain of youth is right here in America. The promised land. Facts. That has only been the case, they're saying, for the last 500 years. Is that for much of the longer stretch of history. So at first they were looking for it somewhere else. Then sometime in the last 500 years, they said, nah, I think it's right here in America. Look, we're in America now. We're in the promised land now. It must be here for a much longer stretch of history, actually dating all the way back to the 5th century BC. Its home was believed to be Ethiopia back then. The first Persian Empire touched 3 continents, but Ethiopia resisted invasion. In the voluminous history of the Greco-Persian War, the first grand historical narrative, Herodotus recounted how the king of Ethiopia, protective of his lands, scoffed at the average lifespan of the Persian, 80, while most of his people, the long-lived Ethiopians, lived to be 120 years old, while some even went beyond that age. At first, Herodotus writes, the king attributed defeat to the Ethiopian diet, boiled flesh and milk. Is that the Ethiopian diet? But when his visitors showed wonder at his number of the years, he led them to a fountain wherein they had washed. They found their flesh all glossy and sleek, and if they had bathed in oil, as if they had bathed in oil. All right, so they went to this fountain. They washed and found their flesh all glossy and sleek, as if they had bathed in oil, and a scent came from the spring like that of violets. The water was so weak, they said, that nothing would float in it, neither wood nor any lighter substance, but all went to the bottom. If the account of this fountain be true, it would be their constant use of the water from it which makes them so long-lived. All right, and 1001 ideas that change the way we think. Robert Arp suggests that this was the first recorded mention of the fountain of youth in history. There had to be a reason Ethiopians appeared to live longer. All right, so they get into that. Now, introducing Prester John. We think the arrival of Beyonce's last album on iTunes this month was meteoric. But 800 years earlier, the mysterious arrival in European courts of the so-called letter of Prester John ignited a search for an African king and his kingdom unrivaled in its geographic scope, one lasting centuries in endurance. So 800 years earlier, do the math, you in 2000 something, 2017, something crazy. All right, go 500 years back, you're in the 1500s. All right, so now you have this launch for this whole search for this Prester John based on this letter that's coming out. We got some of that, the letter of 1165, and some claimed it was later than that. Let's just say that the quest to find this black king was no passing fad. Malcolm Letts, author of the distinguished 1947 article Prester John, a 14th century manuscript at Cambridge, again, is this play? Is it play that we're in part 25? Is it play that we're searching for this? You know, people think, oh man, what y'all doing, man? Looking for Prester John, talking about the timelines and King Solomon and King David. Talking about Anatoly for the man, go do the timelines play. Now this guy is doing his manuscript at Cambridge. In Transactions of the Royal Historic Society believed the story of Prester John had been transmitted orally well before his letter, so that when it arrived in Europe in the 12th century, witnesses were ready to receive and believe it. Although there had been word of the representative of Prester John visiting the Pope from India in 1122, India, as we will see, often referred to the Horn of Africa. So now you have a connection again. India is Africa, right? Asia, all this stuff, whatever you want to call it. But all that is considered India. Then, 1158, Otto, Bishop of Friesland in Germany. So this Bishop of Friesland in Germany in 1158, Otto Bishop publishes famous Historia de Duobos Civitablis. In it, he told of a visit he had observed decades before between the Pope Eugene III and Bishop Hugh of Jabala, Syria, who, in pressing for another crusade, referred to Prester John, as the Christian king, which later they're going to call an historian, as we know, who had scored a decisive victory against his Persian, Median, and Assyrian rivals on the other side of the Tigris River before his own horses had steamed and crossing over it into the Holy Land. So he's whooping up on these Persians, Medians, and Assyrians. In describing the encounter, Otto traced Prester John's ancestry to the Magi, who we know as the three wise men or kings who from the east brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh to baby Jesus. All right. So before this baby Jesus, who were the Magi? Who were the magic men? Who was Enoch? Who was Moses? You know what I'm saying? So when you get into these magics and Salem, Jerusalem, Salem, witch hunts, Enoch magic, Solomon magic. Everybody had magic. It's just a matter of what order your magic was in. And if your magic was directly from the Creator, as Moses' magic was, your magic has order over their magic. But when you fall, you go after their magic, because you forget your magic, your order. You learn it from them instead of going within, connecting to your Creator, getting that Adam magic, power over fire, water, air, and land. power over the elements that you have by nature, by being the crystal you are, you go after abstract Merkabahs, synthetic Merkabahs. Gifts of gold, Magi, Prester John's ancestry to the Magi. All right. So then it's going to go to the letter Prester John. All right. Go get all this because, this is all in Alexandria, the Vulgate Bible. You know what I'm saying? All right. So then we get to the Prester John, Fountain of Youth. Now, to account for Prester John's age and work around it, Robert Silverberg writes in his 1972 book, The Realm of Prester John, the legend of the Fountain of Youth in Ethiopia was blended in as an interpolation. Here's the version transcribed from a slighter later manuscript in Silverberg's book. Whoever drinks of his water 3 times without having eaten will have no illness for 30 years. And when he has drunk of it, he will feel as if he has eaten the finest meat and spices, for it is full of God's grace. A person who bathes in this fountain, whether he be of 100 or 1,000 years, will retain the age of 32. 32. All right. Know that when we were born and blessed in the womb of our mother 562 years ago, and since, whoa. Whoa. All right. So this is, all right. So he said, know that we were born and blessed in the womb of our mother 562 years ago, and since then we have bathed in the fountain 6 times. In other words, Prester John was letting readers know that by the miracle of the Fountain of Youth, he was 562 years old and going strong. How old is Prester John now? However old he is, he looks 32. As a result of this interpolation, building on the Fountain of Youth, Herodotus had identified in Ethiopia 1,500 years before Europe's difficulty in making contact with Prester John then was of no moment, Silverberg argues, for he was immortal and could wait a while longer to be discovered. Prester John was in that most exclusive club of personalities who had staying power for centuries, not years or minutes. Then you get into the Portuguese encounter of Prester John, and everyone's using these priest-king titles, but the brother just kicked, Prester John just kicked, he was 562 years old. Dig on that for a minute. 562 years old. So who was Prester John? Can we do the math? If he's 562 years old, I guess the time he's writing this letter, can we subtract 562 years from that? Some people say this letter was what? Look, this is what we got to do. All right. So I just wanted to get a piece of that so we can link back and know that when we talk Prester John, we're talking the priest king. When our Tanakh, breaks down, King David will reign forever. King David will return, that our prophets will return. Does this have anything to do with it? This water, this pure water that they're swimming in, right? Right? All right, man, before I forget, just know everything that we do here is always in the frequency. And it's always fair use. All up in your caboose. All right, get it? All right. Copyright disclaimer. Section 107, fair use, 1976, nigga. All right. We just talking Prester John, man. Love to my man, Medicine Man. I want to get a few minutes, man. Let's back it up, man. I want to get back to that 7-minute mark. Let's get about 7 minutes. Look at these images and think about the image of the Indian and the invasion and the white man coming and all the little Indians and all this shit. Look at how these people, just look at this stuff, man. Now, this was going on in Europe. Now, we're going to connect that back to the Rooses. We're going to connect that back to Mazaka, as we've been doing. Prester John, the Cariots. We're connecting the Kyriads and the Rechabites. You know what I'm saying? So let's do some work, man. This is Prester John 25, man. This got to be big. This got to be live. Because we're only talking Roose in Russia. We're only talking Khazaria, Mazaka. How much you want to bet that Mozak, the founder, got something to do with Prester John, the priest king? How much you want to connect this Mazaka and this Byzantine situation with this Mexica and this Peru and this South America and this Garden of Eden, the terrestrial paradise and the Orinoco River that Columbus said flowed out of the terrestrial paradise? They knew Eden is here. They knew where they were at. And if Eden is here, then the fountain of youth is here. Sucker. All right, man. Medicine, man. Man, he said, yo, I'm surfing the wave. I just clicked on this, man. I said, whoa. I got a lot of homework to do. And we all do. Hopefully everybody already been digging on this medicine, man. I'm getting into it right here. Belly flopping in part 5. Go back to the top. Love to the bruh. Aki. Let go. You know. Pay attention to the flow. Yes, sir. What has been concealed will be revealed. Man, I told you we only talking Roose. We only talking Roose. Roose, let go. We only talking Roose. Byzantine. Now I'm with y'all. I'm digging in on this too, man. And I see all these crosses and I immediately think hijack this and hijack that. And then I'm looking at these frescoes and I also think like, you know, I mean, people are painting this shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, so somebody might paint a picture of me one day. They might put a put a cross on it or something, man. So I'm trying to get to the, you know what I mean, into the real spill of it all, man. And there's got to be some, I mean, you know what I'm saying, some sincere connection here with this Byzantine, what they're calling the Black Holy Roman Empire, you know what I'm saying, all this stuff, to, you know, what they have today in Rome, you know what I'm saying, in that Rome. But this first joint that was popping off right here, that was going down, which we're going to connect, again, the Kyriads, and how their descendants and these people, you know, these so-called Mongols, Wang Khan, Prester John was ruling, settled throughout Europe. And I'm seeing how we connect these Mongols, these Kyriads, to this Byzantine situation. Get the indigenous drop. of what was being represented here. You know what I mean? And while this is going on, when you see, you know what I'm saying, you know, just while this is going on, knowing the connection that's going on here in the promised land here, think about the so-called Indian, you know what I'm saying, image that they're giving us here. You know what I'm saying? That we're trying to connect and trying to get off these images off their TV and off their media. When you see cats walking around in full, you know what I'm saying, night armored up, you try to juxtapose and try to compare and say, is it like this or is it like that? If cats is walking around in armor, you know what I'm saying, in the 800s, then how do you go from that to thinking that you just literally running around naked? Either you're running around naked or you're in armor. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to get to exactly what was popping when they found us here. And if the Moors say that this was already Morocco here, then were they in armor? Of course, because we see the St. Maurice images and all this kind of stuff, which of course is Amias Andros. So which Moors are these and which Moors are those? You know, I mean, I'm just throwing all this out because this is Prester John 25, man. We're trying to get to the root of it all. Love to the kings, love to the queens. Let's go. I mean, my people, you are everywhere. You are represented everywhere. This was Europe. This was Europe, not the Europe you see, Braveheart and shit. This was Europe. So we're digging on the tribes now, the migrations now. We know the hijack is real. We know that there's babies in the bathroom. We know there's babies in the bath water. King David, look at him. Who is Prester John? I mean, it's crazy, you know, that we're just, you know, surfing the wave, talking about timelines and the possibility that, you know what I'm saying, this Prester John that we are, you know, hot on the trail of. We on your ass, Prester John. This 12th century situation, could it be the actual King David? I know. But something about this image, when I look at this and then I go back to this one, then I go to this, and I go to this, and I go to this, and I go to this, then I go to this. And this is El Prester Juan, the priest king, emperor of the de los Abyssinios. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Are we crazy to call this King David? We know it's a descendant of David. We know he's called David. We know he's called David, and we know our timelines play. I mean, you know. You've been serving the rave, you already know where I'm going. You know the timelines play. So we ain't crazy. I mean, they want us to think we're crazy. They say that we got a bunch of crazy hypotheses, a bunch of crazy theories, but we're not crazy. If Anatoly Fomenko The chronographer is breaking it down.
Lunar eclipse, an annular solar eclipse, and another lunar eclipse. You can infer what the path of totality was, and the whole deal from these descriptions. The creators of modern chronology, namely Scaliger and Batavius, tried to astronomically solve the problem of those eclipses. Were not able to do it without leaving out some of the data provided by Thucydides, who, by the way, says he was a witness of this. So what Fomenko did, he said, let's make no presuppositions about this. Where are the exact astronomical solutions for this triad of eclipses? And there turns out to be one in the 11th century AD and one in the 12th century AD, and no others. So what Fomenko does quite regularly is he will appeal to astronomical arguments to try to determine which is the principal one, and his conclusion, and however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on.
Most of it is from 900 on. The only legitimate history, people. Listen up.
And however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on. From 300 on, we got like statuary documents and things like that.
He thinks most of the things that we think of as historical events really did happen, but the question is when and where, and maybe, of course, how many times. And he thinks, well, it didn't happen 10 times, it only happened once, and most of that stuff happened after 900.
Most of it happened after the 900s, and all we are doing, we surf the wave, and we're being, you know what I'm saying, scientific in this investigation, is we say, if it happened after the 900s, oh, we're going to get into the scariest, man. We're going to get into the scary. We're going to get into these negoosh. If it happened after the 900s, then could this be the actual King David? The actual King David. The actual King David that says he's how old? How old are you, Priest King? I remember this letter was in 1158 AD. Talking 1165 AD. This letter of Prester John. Talking about, you know, all the drop. All his fantastical, you know, such his kingdom. Had peace without poverty and abundance of wealth. Precious stones, a sprawling palace, an invincible army, an array of ever more intriguing creatures, and a hierarchy in which 70 kings paid him tribute. And hierarchy in which 70 kings paid him tribute. 70 kings. Then I heard another one that said 72 kings. So how many kings did King David have pay him tribute? Well, Prester John has 70 kings. If indeed you can number the stars and sands of the sea, you may calculate the extent of our dominion and our power. Is this the actual King David? If the real legitimate history happened after the 900s, now how old did he say he was? 562 years old. Know that we were born and blessed in the womb of our mother 562 years ago. And since then we have bathed in the fountain 6 times. Whoever drinks of the fountain 3 times without eating will have no illness for 30 years, and when he is drunk of it, he will feel as if he is eating the finest meat and spices, for it is full of the grace of the Creator. And the person who bathes in this fountain, whether he be of 100 or 1,000, will regain the age of 32. And it says, know that we were born and blessed in the womb of our mother 562 years ago, and knowing that all the legitimate history really happened after the 900s, and then they pushed it back in the timelines. Go get all that drop. You go get it. You go get it. Then if it's happening after the 900s, and he's saying he's 562 years old, and the letter was written in 1165, all right. Are we talking about, I mean, you know, how are we connecting this to the King David? Whether it's the timeline situation, or if he is literally 562 years old because he has the fountain of youth, could this still be the exact same person? This David? And this particular You know what I mean? Painting here. El Prester John, El Priest King, King David. This King David and this King David. Let's get some more of this. Beautiful job, Medicine Man, my brother. Zachariah. Shea. Isaiah. Shayahu. Joe. Is it play? Wow, Saint Michael of Chernigov. Now we're going to see another painting, a fresco where it's showing. Remember the black Genghis Khan, the Batu Khan was slicing and dicing him, and then it said he was slicing a prince of Roose or Russia, Saint Michael of Chernigov, but it had a white image being sliced. And I said, you know, the Rooses didn't look like this. Now this is a Roose. And this was the one that was being killed in this image you're about to see for not what they say paid obeisance or obedience to or worshiping this shrine or this idol of Genghis Khan, this black Genghis Khan image. Look to my man Dub Styles, my man Cal. So this was the actual image of this, white image you're about to see, who's being killed by Batu Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, for not showing love to this Genghis Khan shrine, because he is of the lineage of Prester John, of the Cariots, of the Rooses. Genghis Khan killed his forefather. All the same family, right? One more, another more. One Khan, another Khan. Ame'rican. Diversas. David. Sir. Three Magi. Emmanuel, right? Imagine. Now, when they say Christ, remember, they're just calling him an Isu. They're calling something a Messiah. He's being hijacked with this term Christ. Nestorian Christ. Now, when they say Jesus, and you know it's Joshua, you got to go get the drop. Because if you're looking for a Messiah, you're going to find Joshua. You're going to find you a Joshua coming up in the tutelage of Moshe, who literally saved your ass and brought you into a promised land. And if someone brings you into a promised land led by the Creator, they are a Christ. They are a Mashiach. They are that which is bringing you salvation from the Creator personally. Not something that you're believing in coming and going, but something that actually is literally saving you. Someone who's actually literally saving you. If the Creator, whoever the Creator sends to save us, whether it's King David with the fountain of youth, that's a Mashiach. You don't need to believe in their versions of it, but they will hijack your versions of it. They'll hijack the foundational legends, and we're getting to the foundation of this Christ, of this Mashiach, of the many Mashiachs of Israel, and none to be worshipped. None boast above the Creator. None say they are the Creator. Joshua never says he's the Creator. Moses never says he's the Creator. Where do you get off with these Mashiachs that then say, oh, well, Jesus is God? Oh, it's the flesh thing. Those are the councils of Nicaea, and those are the councils that were all, put and sprawled with people conjuring up magic to enslave you. Magic to tie this to that together. But Thoth had already done a great job of that already. Thoth had already done a great job and was doing a great job influencing these people on both sides, calling themselves Christians and Muslims and all of these warring energies. But who was against all hijacks? Who was fighting against the Christians and the Moors and the Muslims? Who were the Christians trying to recruit? They were trying to recruit these band of Mongols, these Mongolians, these Khans, these Kariots. And who were they? These Rechabites. Who are they? These were these Israelite Hebrews that are being hidden in history under different terminologies like Christian, Nestorians, Byzantines. They're being hidden under titles like Mongolian or African. Let go. And even in this stuff, man, these got nothing but copper color angels. And now our children today can't even imagine a black angel, because all of these images are destroyed. Roose. Now look how all these normal people, then now you got these animal-headed people. I mean, were they splicing and dicing? Oh, man. St. Christopher, the dog-headed. I mean, were they just talking about his characteristics, or did he really have a dog head? Here it is. So this is the one that my man Dubstyles dropped. This is the black Genghis Khan, and underneath the fine print, they called this Sir Michael, there we go, Sir Michael Chernigov. Prince Michael Chernigov. Now that's 709. I remember where we were at, 509, about 500. Remember that name, Prince Michael. Now they're calling this the Prince Michael Chernigov. Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, who was a black man. Somehow he's not black, but this guy is black. Right? Batu Khan stabbed this Michael Chernigov to death for his refusal to do obeisance or bow down to this Genghis Khan shrine. Depicted as a black man, it said on the portrait that we read, there's a caption underneath. It said, note how Genghis Khan is depicted as a black man. Go back and get that drop. So this Batu Khan is now shanking up there's Michael of Cherganov, who is a Roose, all right? And I say, well, he don't look like a Roose. And then now the brother just dropped this, and now we see another Michael de Cherganov. Saint Michael de Cherganov. Is this the same guy you just saw? No. So these were melanated people visiting a shrine of one of his ancestors, Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is an ancestor to the Negro. He was a relative direct bloodline to this Prester John. But these were one group of Khans and another group of Khans, both melanated people, both Moors. Now you got their bloodlines connecting into Asia and Europe, and this connection here with these Byzantines and this Mazaka. Now let's keep going. We're almost there. Yeah, man. You probably had some dog-headed people walking around you, man, back then, man. On the real time. So again, Prince Michael de Cherganov. Now you see the hijack. So you see they give you a little truth, a little lies. So you see paintings, you still gotta get to you got the whitewash. And now you see it was a brother being stabbed by another brother whose uncle or grandfather was a brother, and a bunch of brothers standing around while this brother didn't want to do obeisance to this shrine in the pagan ritual. This brother ain't no pagan. He's a Roose. This is a prince. He's a Roose. All of it plays with Russia, right? Mazaka, Khazaria, right? Genghis Khan. The black man, look at him. Look at his shrine, the black man. The shrine of Genghis Khan. Now you see Bata Khan, a little more melanated than you saw in the other picture. This is the one that was stabbing Prince Michael, who's that brother, so it was this brother that was stabbing that other brother. And that's how the shit really went down. Yep, you already know. Which leads us to the great Prester John, king of the three Indies. Three Indies, three Indias, people. Three massive lands of black people. Three massive lands of dark people. The earth, man. The Moors just called him emperor of everything. He was just emperor. He was just emperor, this black man. Dark copper colored brother, King David, three Indies, the great Prester John. Y'all check the rest of that out from Medicine Man. Again, we only talking King David, Prester John. Now, how does it play? How does it play, man? We got a good amount of time, man. So let's get into some recon. I'm gonna try to go quickly just to recap on some things. I know it's been a couple weeks, man. We done got into a couple other series and different things, but that's how we're gonna do it, man. We're moving water over here, so I hope you're enjoying the library. You're digging on it. We're gonna get right back in it. Let's just take a couple seconds, because we get a little excited when that reality sets in. Love to Drop Nation. Love to every one bit of every melanated family. We just getting our drop, our truth. So when we talk about the truth, we just talking about reality. Like, what's real? If I step on this floor, is it real, or will I fall through it? So if you're giving me something that I'm gonna fall through, I'm gonna have to cut it up. I'm gonna have to frequency it up so we can get the indigenous truth. The reality. We're just getting reality. Everyone has a truth. Your truth, my truth. What's real, man? What does America really look like? And who was Prester John? Man, this is dope, some stuff. But you gotta dodge the hijack again when we talk about this Ethiopian situation and we get 2 Ethiopias, 3 Ethiopias. At least 2, right? The West and the East. Where's that at? Here we go. Alright, the blameless of the pious Ethiopians. Hence we read of 2 Ethiopian nations, the Western and Oriental. Some lived in the Far East, some lived in the Far West. So when you hear Ethiopia again, it wasn't nailed down to a place until later. Before that, it's just you're an Ethiopian in Ethiopia, wherever that is, in the mind of a hijack. Now you know we got fam that was, rocking against you, and because of that, there's a lot of hijack to dodge. So you got this Jesus Christ popping up all over this so-called Ethiopia today, this Coptic situation, you know what I mean? So there's definitely a serious Roman confederacy happening there. Now this is concerning the Queen of the South, Queen Sheba, South. Now when you think South, I want you to also think Amazon. You know what I'm talking about if you've been surfing it. And how this queen was born, I have discovered written in that manuscript and in this manner. Also doth the evangelist mention the woman and our Lord. They're calling JC. Now, of course, you're just talking Joshua, the Messiah. You might not be talking this other thing. So, feel free to, surf that as well. When they go there, they might just be mentioning Joshua, the Messiah. In condemning the Jewish people, the crucifiers who lived at the time spoke, saying, the Queen of the South shall rise up on the day of judgment and shall dispute with and condemn and overcome this generation who would not hearken unto the preaching of my word, for she comes from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Have you heard about this in relation to the day of judgment? We talk about the judgment a lot, apocalypse, different things. How does the Queen Sheba play? How does Sarah Cali play? Now, the Queen of the South shall rise up on the day of judgment and shall dispute with and condemn and overcome this generation who would not hearken unto the preaching of my word, for she comes from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. You don't think Prester John plays in this judgment? Who was Prester John? And why are we in the investigation? Part 25. And the Queen of the South, of whom he spake, was the Queen of Ethiopia, which won. And in the words, ends of the earth, he maketh allusion to the delicacy of the constitution of women, and the long distance of the journey, and the burning heat of the sun, and the hunger on the way, and the thirst for water. The ends of the earth, the third India, the Americas. And this Queen of the South was very beautiful in her face, and her statue was superb. She was beautiful. All right. And her understanding and intelligence, which God had given her, the Creator had given her, were of such high character that she went to Jerusalem to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Now this was done by the command of God, and it was his good pleasure. And moreover, she was exceedingly rich, for God had given her glory and riches in gold and silver, all right, and splendid apparel. Now, even though she was Ethiopian, the Most High was raising her up for a purpose. And camels and slaves, and she chose up. And she chose up. Most High knew she would choose up. And camels and slaves and trading men and merchants, and they carried on her business and trafficking for her by sea and land and in India. Ethiopia, India. Ethiopia, India. I mean, I'm going to leave this link. You see all kinds of great things. I've been surfing already concerning the Queen of the South, concerning the visions of the earth. Man, how the Queen came to Solomon the king. And she arrived in Jerusalem and brought to the king very many precious gifts, which he desired to possess greatly. And he paid her great honor and rejoiced, and he gave her a habitation in the royal palace near him. And he set her food both for the morning and evening meal, each time 15 measures by the kori of finely ground white meal, cooked with oil and gravy and sauce in abundance, and 30 measures by the kori of crushed white meal, wherefrom bread for 350 people was made, and the necessary platters and trays, and 10 stalled oxen, and 5 bulls, and 50 sheep, without counting the kids and deers, and gazelles, and fatted fowls, and vessels of wine containing 6 great measures, and 30 measures of old wine, and 25 singing men, and 25 singing women, and the finest honey. Man, I mean, he said, you could just say he set her out. All right, Solomon set her out. That's all we have to say. That's all we have to say. All right, and Solomon was working at the building of the house of God, and rose up and went to the right and to the left, and forward and backward, and he showed the workmen the measurement and the weight and the spades covered by the materials, and he told the workers in metal how to use the hammer and the drill and the chisel, and he showed the stonemasons the angle, the measure, and the circle of the circumference and measure. And everything was wrought by his order, and there was none who set himself in opposition to his word. We're just talking Solomon. All right, we're just talking Solomon. We're just talking David. We're just talking Prester John. And everything was wrought by his order. All right, and the speech of the beasts and the birds, there was nothing hidden from him, so he could understand the speech of the beasts and the birds. Now, the Prester John said that, you know, he was one in peace with all the animals, and Sheba was one in peace with all the animals. Everybody's at peace with the animals, and he forced the devils to obey him by his wisdom. You heard about the ring that this priest king had, that had all the devils in check. Ashtoreth, Baal. One magic had rulership over the other magic. The fiery flying serpent had order over the venomous snakes. And he did everything by his means of the skill which God gave him when he made supplication to him. For he did not ask for victory over his enemy, and did not ask for riches and fame, but asked God to give him wisdom and understanding, whereby he might rule his people and build his house and beautify the work of God, the Creator, and all that he had given him in wisdom and understanding. Now, there's a lot more to get out of that, but let's just keep going for a second now. Again, we're doing recaps and tying this together. We're just talking King David, this king, right? This David Soslan of Babylon and Georgia, who they're also calling Prester John the Pandian. We got into a little bit of the Pandies, which we need to get back into the Pandas. The Pandians, the Cholas and Pandians. India, the 3 Indias. Exilarch, that means you're ruling during the Babylonian captivity. But Babylon is Ethiopia, and Ethiopians call themselves Babylonians. Get that last drop. Love to the brother King Dre, man. You know, y'all subscribe, y'all support, man, the fam that's not trying to, but bringing you the drop. Taking time out of their day. They could be on the streets slapping you in the back of the head, but they're just bringing you drop. So, you know, love to them, man. Now, he's the father of Exilarch, his die of Babylon, and Solomon, the Israelite king of Telmas, and Hanan, the Israelite king of Dahama. So this is David Soslan, who they're also calling Prester John. David Soslan. Now let's keep reading a little bit. You know, we touched on this David Soslan, this Georgia, which connected us to the Alania or Allens, Queen Tamar, Raja Chola, which we just got from here. Raja Chola II, Jadaran, Emperor of Soliman, David Soslan. They call it the Bagrationi dynasty of Georgia, Russia, Roose, and an anonymous chronicler writing during the reign of George Lasha IV, son of Tamar and David Soslan. So this is this George Lasha is the son of this David Soslan, 1212 1223 ascribes to Soslan a Bragrantid ancestry. A version of his Bragrantid origin found further development in the works of the 18th century Georgian scholar Prince Verhushti Bagrantoni. He considered Soslan to be a descendant of George I of Georgia. George I of Georgia. King George I of Georgia. Now, is this who the brother Asir Ducateers was calling the dirty Moors? These kings, these Georges, these dark Georges, these rulers that were ruling in Europe? Then the Moors get expelled, or they say expelled out of Europe, but they're still having these issues with these dirty Moors going back and forth. Alright, so we're connecting that with this Edward the Black and Edward the Prince Edward and all this stuff, you know, these Andros and Rooses and this Moor against Moor and the alliances that were made. Alan, so he's the direct descendant of George I of Georgia, and his Alan wife Aldi were parents of Demetrius. Alright, is this Saint Demetrius? Alright, let's go. An unfortunate pretender, this saying, to the Georgian crown, whose son David was forced by Bagrat V of Georgia to flee Alania. According to Vashti, David and his descendants Atan and Jadaran married into the Alan ruling family and became kings of Osi. Alright, so whatever they're calling unfortunate pretender. Well, they're saying, you know, that King Dimitri, or this the parents of Dimitri, an unfortunate pretender to the Georgian crown, whose son David was forced. So, you know, I don't know what they are, you know, using to, you know, back up this particular statement. Sometimes this is Wikipedia and they just throw stuff out there like they seem to be doing. They got to substantiate these claims, man. So he was forced by Bagrat IV of Georgia to flee Alania. Now, David and his descendants, Atan and Jadaran, married into the Alan ruling families and became kings of Osi, i.e. Alans. The Jadaran is said to have been Soslan's father, Prester John's father, King David's father. All right. While the account is considered credible by the modern scholars, such as Merriam, whatever that is, the issue of Soslan's origin still remains uncertain. So they still don't know. They still don't know nothing about Prester John. But we're all just talking about the 13th century and the 12th, the same century. So a passage from the 13th century, an anonymous Georgian historians of eulogies and sovereigns relates that David was under the patronage of Tamar's patron aunt Rusadan and came the descendants of Ephraim, who were Osi. Now you have Ephraim. Now you have Levi. Now you got the Rechabites. Now you got all these things coming out, and David is saying he's the ruler of the Cariates. He's Wang Khan. Who's Wang Khan? Wang Khan and Cariates in Mongol Empire. Wang Khan as Prester John, also known as Tagru Wang Khan, son of Karkulas. Alright, so Khatan. Now Genghis Khan called him Khan Etzek, Khan father. So Genghis Khan, that black Genghis Khan, is calling him Khan father. And then we got how he's the blood uncle or foster father of this Genghis Khan. So it was a family affair. And Genghis Khan took out his uncle, who he called Khan father. The Tartars rebelled against the Jin dynasty, 1115. This is the 12th dynasty up until 1234, which is the 13th dynasty. Let's go back to the 13th century, 13th century. So we're matching up timelines here. Relates David was under the patrons of Tamar, Ephraim. All right, so we're connecting all that. We connected all this with this Soslan. All right, let's keep going. All right. Man, let's just dip right here, man, right quick. The Boston University School of Theology Library. All right, so we're going to get into the mind of a hijack into this theology. I'm just going with y'all. You know, because when you see how this Christianity connects to this Eusebius to the Mozak, the founder, to Mazaka, to Russia, to Georgia, to David Soslan, King of Georgia, King of Ethiopia. It all plays. Just surfed away. Alright, so it's edited, you know. This is handbooks for Bible classes, private students, edited by Reverend Marcus Dobbs. 9,005th edition, Short History of Christian Missions, alright, by George Smith. So, you're going to get into these Christian missions, you know, it's coming out the Boston, you know, University Situation Library, alright. That's the drop on that. Alright, quick, man. I want to go to page, let's go 28. Oh, yeah. Alright, let's get it right here. It's a lot of drive, man. I can start anywhere. You know, I just want to get it from, you know, got a lot to cover, so let's go. Alright, so the family consisted of the father Terach. So these are the families that's, you know, making this particular migration. The ninth, and descended from Shem after the flood, and 3 boys. Abram, father of elevation. And he was, as he was first called, Nahor and Haram. Nahor remained behind, at least for a time, and Haran had died, leaving a son, Lot. With the intention of reaching the far distant and fertile Syrian coast of the Mediterranean at Canaan, Abraham set out with Sarah, a princess, his wife and half-sister, Terach, his father, and Lot, his nephew. They followed the river up its fertile valley 400 miles to a camping ground on Little Billik territory, and at a spot 50 miles to the east of the Euphrates on the edge of the desert. The name of the settlement Haran, in memory of the dead son and brother. There Terach died during the long halt, while Abraham was being ripened in years and faith and wisdom and high civilization of the day. For the next step, Haran became his colleague. We have the original clay tablets of the time, and later the Assyrian translations found in the various spots. In the book of Genesis itself tells us of the signet of Judah in the 3rd generation after. So wondrously has the personality of Abraham marked history at its earliest source. The Talmud, Josephus, and Quran represent Abraham as introducing Egypt, the knowledge of astronomy, arithmetic. The Parsis see in him their Zoroaster or Zarathustra, which we also have the connection to Joseph. You know what I'm saying? Especially as it connects to these Grand Canyon situations and these Euphrates in America as well, as you know. And all the traditions unite in attributing to him the authorship of certain books. So in Haran, however, no more than in her was he separate from idolatry. The last traces of the old life passed away with his father Terach. The desert had been placed between the infant church and the universal heathenism. He crossed it by the way of holiness familiar to his descendants and used by the Magi on their way to Bethlehem. The missionary Abraham was 75 years of age and had yet 100 years before him, when after a short halt at Damascus, where the Arabs still professed to show his habitation, he symbolically took possession of the promised land by building an altar first at Shechem, then near Bethel, and then in Hebron on the way to Egypt. The divine call, which had silently drawn him to and had audibly spoken at Haran of a land that I will show thee, a promised land, right? America, right? A promised land, right? A land that I will show thee, and a great nation that I will make thee, declared at these three central spots. All the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth for a number. All right. In Haran and Egypt, which stress of famine led Abraham to visit, were already so given over to idol and nature worship that a later prophet described Chaldea as the land of graven images, and they are mad upon idols, Jeremiah 1:38. Much more was Canaan. All right, Canaan, the cruelty of Moloch and the impurity of Ashereth were filling the cup of iniquity, which sank the people to a depth of horror probably unmatched in the history of the race. All right, so listen, man, listen. We got Canaan. We know where Canaan is. We understand what's happening here in America. We understand how Joshua was kicking out the Canaanites, and they recovered in Morocco there in so-called Africa today, after being booted out from here in America, then came back with reinforcements here, did treaties like the treaties of peace and friendship on the so-called Negro today that doesn't know who they are. One Khan against another Khan, one Moor against another Moor. An age-old battle of a family. Who is behind the veil today? Pulling the strings. Pulling the strings. Alright, so let's take this belly flop to 1. Let's go. 28. Man, they be blocking pages, man. Some good drop here, man. I was gonna get something else, but oh boy. We're just talking Scotland. Look, this is just documenting all these Christian missionaries, man. And, they got Asia and Scotland. The missionary developed at the Reformation was arrested in Scotland and England as it had been in Germany, so that only a few obscure and persecuted but spiritual and heroic Christians saw the conversion of the nations, and that by unorganized agencies outside of Protestant churches, we have seen Lutheranism become fossilized into a stony orthodoxy and polemical dogmatism, leaving it for a few pietists and united brethren to preach and suffer for the kingdom of Christ. In Scotland, where the whole people, after successfully struggling for civil freedom, carried out Reformation in its most radical form, the self-seeking lords of the Congregation plundered church and school and poor alike of the abbey properties, and persecution followed in its most pitiless form. The Conventioners had enough to do in keeping the Presbyterian Church from being altogether consumed by the flames. In the Pictish and Saxon times, the Scots have been missionaries of a free and spiritually independent church. What they're calling church, they're just, referring to the group, or, what they're calling religion, or what they're calling a group of spirituality, a spiritual meeting place. Don't let the church hijack you. We're just talking pigs. And let me back it up. I'm going to go to 128. I'm glad I got there, though, man. That's what happens when you belly flop. I'm trying to stay on point. Man, let's go. Let go. Right. Almost there. 112. It's a big book, man. It's one of those books. It's like 500 pages or something crazy. Alright, 128. Here we go. Columba. Actually, let me go back one more. Man, every time I look up, something new I see. And I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing, man, the more we keep digging. New Jerusalem. That's all I had to see. Yeah, man, when you go through this and you see how many missions, we're talking about the New World in North America, the two Reformation principles of missions. The Reformation begun in the 16th century, took 200 years to spiritualize the Protestant churches of Christendom and to extend them over the New World of North America, reckoning from 1512, when Luther nailed his 95 Theses against the abuse of indulgences on the door of the Castle Church of Wittenberg. It may be said that the Reformation took 3 centuries to bring the churches back to apostolic purity of doctrine. 3 centuries, 300 years, worship and life. But besides this, to make them missionary churches in the wider and even higher sense than either the fathers of or the reformers knew, this the Reformation did by 2 principles especially. Luther had been careful. So you got this Luther, right, Martin Luther, as a citizen of the Holy Roman Empire, which was conterminous with Christendom all throughout the Middle Ages, to base his reforms on the Nicene Creed. All right, we're getting back into the Christendom, the Nicene Creed, which had been approved by Pope Damasus and gradually departed from by the Pope's successors. All right. Then you got this Greek Testament. I mean, all right. Now I just want to see something. Let me see something right quick as I surf this way with you. That's what it is. Alright. There was another drop I wanted to get. Right about here. Monte Carvino, Intolerant missions. Alright. Let's get it from here. So far before this time was Raymond Lull, that the Inquisition, which the Council of Toulouse had created in 1229 to punish, 1229, so 13th century, just stay right there, to punish a namesake of his, and extirpate the Albigenes, it almost sounds like albinos, was in 1478 introduced into Spain to deal with Mohammedans and Jews and all Christians whom Rome pronounced. Alright, so now you got the 1452 Papal Bull. You got this coming out of Rome, put them into perpetual servitude. All these people, all these Moors, in the little state of Asturias, Christianity so recovered its ground by means of the same physical force which Muhammad had preached, that by 1502 the Moors were expelled from Spain. The Jews, who had formed a highly organized guild of foreigners in every country, had carried out in a materialistic sense the prophecy of Isaiah. So he's saying the Jews, who were highly organized, had a highly organized guild, he's saying of foreigners in every country, had carried out a materialistic sense of the prophecy of Isaiah. You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles. Had 2 years respite, during which the priests plied them with Cardinal Mendoza's catechism, so that the evangelical preacher and pope maker Bernard of Clairvaux had in the 12th century, when heralding the Second Crusade, urged the soldiers of the cross not to slaughter the people who were scattered among all the nations as living memorial of Christ's passion. This was his quote. Of course, they're doing this Christian. But there was a decree put out by this pope maker, Bernard de Clairvaux, had in the 12th century, so we're talking about the 1100s, the same time that this letter came out of Prester John, 1165, right? 12th century. Remember your timelines. All legitimate history happened after the 900s, and they flipped your history upside down. When heralding the Second Crusade, he urged the soldiers of the cross not to slaughter the people who were scattered among all nations as living memorials of Christ's passion. While our own charitable Anselm of Canterbury had written a dialogue between a Jew and a Christian on the Christian faith, but in 1481, Seville was the scene of the burning of 291 Jews or Israelites. We're talking about 1481. In the next 20 years, the infamous Inquisitor General Torquemada burned 10,220 persons, chiefly Jews or Israelites, Negroes. He burned in effigy 6,860, condemned in absence, and compelled 96,321 to conform. A century of this work did not suffice, nor could the Jews or Israelites purchase toleration by the tempting offer of 30,000 ducats to coerce the Mohammedans, like, get up off us, take this money. It was a tempting offer, huh? But they couldn't purchase the toleration. In 1492, here we go. This is what you got. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. What really went down in 1492? And what does it have to do with you, so-called Negro? Alright. We're going to get our battery juice so we can have a nice smooth dismount here. Hold up. Right. Alright. We are juicing. Alright. So, 1492, the decree went forth which drove from the peninsula the ablest of its population into other lands and gave to England and not a few of its greatest families. So, the more than a few, much more than a few of these greatest families, as well as the Israelis. Now, what's this Israelis? I see Israel, but I see Israelis and Israelis. The Jew, like the Mohammedan, twofold offspring of Abraham after the flesh. What flesh? Was it a flesh that looked something like this? Priest King, Prester John? That type of flesh? The Jew, like the Mohammedan, twofold offspring of Abraham after the same flesh, is still the opprobrium of missions. And I said, what's opprobrium? Got to, just check this out right quick. And it says, opprobrium, harsh criticism or censure, the public disgrace arising from someone's shameful conduct, disgrace, shameful honor, an occasion or cause of reproach or disgrace. So some occasion of reproach, some occasion of disgrace, the conduct of disgrace. So the Jew, like the Mohammedan, twofold offspring, they're both offsprings of Abraham after the exact same flesh of Abraham. Flesh is still the opprobrium of missions. It's still the disgrace, the act of disgrace of their Christian missions. They're still committing disgraceful acts. That's still the target of their disgrace, of their missions. And I want to get into this later too, the reformation of the whole mission of Christendom, the discovery of America, and the opening up of India. How does India play? How does India play? And I'll leave this link, I left it before. This is connecting, it's called Jewish Bubba, the Khazarians, Black Khazars, alright? They're going to give you hijack images, but these are not the Cariots. This is not Wang Kong and the Cariots. These are not the real Cariots. Cariots, Khazarians, Tartars, and Jews of Crimea. These are not the Tartars or the original Russian Israelites, right? But this is what they want you to think they look like now. This is what they want you to think. These Crimean Tartars. No, these are not the Crimean Tartars. These are hijacks. The Tartars were led by Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, in 1223. The same Batu Khan that we just showed stabbing Prince Michael, the Roose, the Russian, for not bowing down to Genghis Khan's shrine. So this hijack group of Khans, these Tartars, were led by Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, and they went into Kiev, Ukraine. They constitute the majority of Crimea's population from the time of its ethnogenesis up into the mid-19th century. Crimean Tartars are not Turkey, but a mixture of many settlements from Europe and Asia. They're Asiatics. When Tartars entered the territory, they managed to cause the blending of Greeks and Armenians, Italians, Ottoman Turks, and southern coastlines, Gulf and central mountains, and Turkic-speaking Kipchaks and Kumans on the steppe, which formed the Crimean Tartar ethnic group. I know that's confusing. They're just saying a lot. Now it says, note, Khazaria went from pagan to Judaism. Now Crimea is switched to Islam. So if this Crimea switched to Islam, what did it have to do with this Baku Khan? What did it have to do with this? They're saying pagan to Judaism. But if these are Israelites, then which ones are switching to, of course people were converted different ways and different this. But what's the OG Black Khazarian? What are we talking about? The Khazarian. What are we talking about? The Khazar. I want to pull this up just to get a little bit of it right quick. Because when you hear this Khazar again, how did it play with the Mazaka? What is Khazar? What is Caesarea? Now this book is from Raymond Van Dam, Becoming Christian, the Conversion of Roman Cappadocia. This is why I kept you in this Christian theology shit, so that we can have a basis again to come back to some of this great tribe. You can go back and get some more. The Mazaka,